3, 2. Hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. I've been very fortunate to meet Katrina and Sara Kindberg. They're the GynZone co-founders. We're doing a series over the next few months that I really want to change the culture in the United States. I'm a very huge advocate of personal development, professional development, and as midwives, like, we want the best for our clients, our families that we take care of. And in the United States, after being exposed to GynZone and seeing the caliber of quality and expectation and knowledge, I was like, we need more exposure to the United States. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So Sara, if you can tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into the next question we had.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted. So I'm a Danish midwife. I've been a midwife for 25 years. And as I was educated, I was diving into whether we should suture or not suture second degree tears. And we actually left quite a few sutures undone, or tears being not sutured at all. And as we progressed in our learning, we found that most women would actually like to have their muscles restored after childbirth and look as if they didn't have any children. So they want to look as good as they can in the perineum and the vulva area. So today we are more cosmetically engaged in saying the vulva should have a nice architecture and it should function just the way it did before, because we need our pelvic floor.
We want our natural bursts, but then after the baby's out, we're like, we want our beautiful bottoms back.
And we use our genitals for sexual arousal and enjoyment, and for having our period in the menstrual pad and not to the side. And we use it for different purposes. We sit on our perineum when we do consultation, horse riding. So we want it to be restored and functional. So that is my goal in life. That is to make midwife and students happy about doing repairs, so that we offer the best services that we can to women.
Yeah, because I think it's like you had talked about in other videos, the research, the main caliber is, if you're not passionate, you aren't comfortable or excited about something, you don't spend as much time learning it, you don't make as much time devoting to it, you kind of try to avoid it. You're like, I'll just do it and when I have to. And so it's shifting that mindset of how do we get education for the next generation of midwives and the ones currently practicing, like a different shift for perineal repairs. I know you and I are going to do an awesome event in August that I'll put a little plug at the bottom of the video to really go in depth with the midwives in the United States on second degree repairs, because that's what most of them do here. But I would love today just to talk about high level overview tips, because that's the most common type of repair that midwives are going to do.
Sure. So in our unit, we have 5,000 births per year. I'm locally working at Aarhus University Hospital. We have 5,000 births, 20% are by cesarean section, but 80% are vaginally. And if we look at our first-time mothers, about 60% of those will have a second degree tear or an episiotomy during their birth. We have extremely low episiotomy rates, so it's only involving 2 to 3% of our women. And the major part would be just second degree tears. And we've done tremendously amounts of research on third degree tears, but very, very little on second degree tears. And what we were seeing in 20 years ago, as I started my research, is that if we do not train midwives to diagnose, they underdiagnose. So in some other birth units, they had a lot of first degree tears and very few second degree tears. And as we started doing training programs and said, you might have to dig into the tissue to find the bulbocavernosus muscle, and you might need instruments like an Alice forceps or other tools. Suddenly we saw more perineal tears than before. And I think we're just doing the right thing, because we're diagnosing correctly instead of not knowing and not seeing and hoping it will work out fine. Because when women close their legs and the perineum might heal either by first intention or by secondary intention, things will disappear in the fog of breastfeeding and having to work and resuming life. So it's very uncommon for a woman in Scandinavia to complain that her pelvic floor is not perfectly restored, because she wouldn't know. She would just be told off by her family doctor saying, you need to do more pelvic floor exercises. And she would try and try and try, but maybe she can never do the exercise because the muscle was not aligned.
Yeah.
So
well, and part of my innocence coming out with my training and my preceptors and my philosophy of how I was taught midwifery is birth is a natural process. When you tear, it's going to heal naturally. Like, we are trying to prevent fistulas. We're talking these extreme situations. We're not talking, you're trying to prevent urinary incontinence. You're trying to, like, we picture third world country. You just want to get the tissue next to each other and then it'll just heal naturally. Like, that's the caliber of my understanding of suturing. And after starting GynZone, like, holy cow, the level of, like, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think it's amazing what you've done, what you've created, easy access, affordability, and just there's 1,000 videos. I can't stress enough, like you're going to get so overwhelmed in excitement when you just do the 7-day trial. With the second degrees, what is the biggest thing you've noticed, like shifting, doing the education, implementing it, that's happened? You talked about just recognizing more second degrees, but is it also the quality of the tear and the complications that have been happening? How has that been changing?
I don't know if it's been changing a lot. We've been trying to evaluate whether we should use interrupted stitches or continuous stitches for second degree repairs. And it actually didn't matter when we evaluated pain and whether the sutures were becoming open again a few days after birth, or just perineal, so pain during intercourse. The women didn't really feel the difference on part of the stitches that we made, but they had a huge experience of being uncomfortable if the midwife was uncomfortable as she sutured. So if the midwife said, I don't know what I'm doing, I hope it will be fine, the women were complaining afterwards of insecurity and loneliness and emotional disruption. So yes, so we've been talking a lot to midwifery students and midwives about how do we communicate that we've done an excellent job and restored the perineum with the stitches that we thought were appropriate, and that she will be fine. And if she's not fine, we have built up services after birth as well, so we can actually evaluate and screen that the result is fine. In our unit, we look at all ladies 2 days after birth. And at some time point, we found out that some of our colleagues always underdiagnosed perineal trauma of second degree. They thought it was a first degree and they put in 1 stitch and it was too little. So we had to go back and do continuous professional medical education with even experienced colleagues in our unit. It also goes with the doctors. You're not a born surgeon and a qualified surgeon just because you're graduated as a midwife or a doctor. So some of us have to be taught a little more and be updated once in a while. And I wish actually that suturing was an update that we had to do once a year, like resuscitation. It's not very often that I resuscitate or close a fire in my unit, but I suture every day. So why is this not part of the curriculum?
Yeah, well, I could see an international suturing certification, just like NRP, just like CPR, just like all these other wonderful certifications. And I think what's so powerful is it's not just teaching the skills and the talent of knots and the instruments, it's the bigger picture. When we do shoulder dystocia and postpartum hemorrhage, we're talking to the family and we're showing, even though we may be scared on the inside, but we're trained to do this exuberant theater act of like, I'm confident, I'm strong, like, we don't think about that when we're suturing. We're having little side conversations with the nurses because we assume they're paying attention to their baby. They just had a baby. They're just, that's our assumption, and at least mine. And so we have to give recognition of the families are always looking at us, and whatever, if we're having this anxious look or we're not feeling confident in our skills, that can have a potential complication on her mental health.
Definitely. And in our unit, we actually say that suturing is a very important part of the birth. So if the baby is fine, the mother is fine, she can actually wear a sanitary pad, maybe with an ice cooling device, and she can breastfeed and relax and have something to eat and drink. And then we can come back, and do the suturing after an hour or after 2 hours. And we might even change so that it is another midwife who's more fresh and more knowledgeable that will come in and do the suturing. So the birth is continued with the person who actually helped delivering the baby. She will also measure the baby and say it's a beautiful, nice baby, breastfeeding is fine. But the ladies in our unit said it doesn't really matter who does the suturing, as long as the pelvic pain management is attended well and that she knows what she's doing. It can be anybody. So we changed mind shifts about who should do the repair. It doesn't have to be the midwife who was during attending the birth, actually. It could be anybody, as long as we're kind and confident and saying, I know what I'm doing, this will be nice.
Yeah, and that's a huge shift. Just in the United States, it's a very like incompetent, like some places are wonderful and collaborative and supportive, and some places are very hostile with the physician and midwifery collaboration. And so breaking those barriers and shifting, like, especially I've done a lot of home birth and out of hospital. If we have a third degree, we don't transfer for 3-4 hours. We let her do her thing. We take care of mom, baby, she gets stable. Then we go to the hospital. So it's trying to take that mental shift of, I think it's more of our US society and the insurance, and you get paid the same amount. So they're just quickly like, so let's get all this stuff done very fast, 5-10 minutes. Let's do an active management at third stage, get the placenta out, get the lidocaines in right after the baby comes out, because we want that to kick in as soon as, like, we have a very fast-paced systematic model that we need to slow down and recognize that this does affect the quality just as much as the birth experience. So anything else, Sara, that you think would be helpful besides just coming to your free event that we're going to be doing in August to really dive deep into second degrees? Do you have any other high-level tips for midwives besides just doing your membership and trying to make change in their area? What are other things with like second degrees that we should talk about?
I think the most important thing that we can do, and which is for free, is to learn from each other. So if you ask in your team of midwives or wherever you work in birth settings or hospitals, is there anybody who is good at potential blocks? And somebody will say, yeah, I'm quite good, it works in 90% of the cases. Then join her or him and see what they're doing. I've learned a lot by attending cesarean sections, because we have cesarean sections in our hospitals and the doctors stand in a very nice way, in a manner. There are two people assisting each other and pain management is taken care of by somebody else. So I've been taught how to suture by assisting in cesarean sections where the woman is totally pain relieved. And that is a nicer position for learning than having to be taught as you're in the rectum with your finger and the woman is in pain in the delivery suite.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's few nurse midwives that do first assist here, and so that would be a great opportunity for them to practice and ask questions. And I'm seeing suturing on some, like it is a different anatomy, but it's the same concept. It's the same hand practice, and the more you do it, the better you'll get.
Yeah, so be open-minded and ask your colleagues, can I be taught something from you? I've heard you're quite good.
Yeah, everybody likes to be bragged about. So if you start out the conversation, I heard you're the best to learn from, most of the time, they're more than happy to teach you. So thank you so much for your time today, Sara, and I look forward to future conversations.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.